We've already covered some important topics, but I want to briefly touch on 5 myths regarding college costs. Things that people assume are true that really are misleading. The first myth is this: the higher the price, the better the quality. Higher education is often skewed in people's mind to assume that a higher cost means better quality. And that's not the case at all, and that's been proven in numerous studies. You know, when you're buying a home, every realtor will tell you location matters, and the better the location, the higher the price. Well, in the university world, location matters as well, although it's a very different corollary. Universities on the East Coast or the West Coast tend to be much more expensive. They're more expensive than those of us in the South who can offer the same quality education at a lower cost because our cost of living is less expensive for our faculty and staff, and that is the primary driver of college costs. Lower costs is a factor of location, efficient administration, calling of the faculty and coaches to mission more than money, the commitment to keeping prices low. All those things add together to a lower price at Belhaven. Here we have taken extraordinary steps to keep costs low, especially when it comes to some of the hidden costs of college. Well, myth number 2 is that textbooks won't cost much. Well, you know, you need textbooks, and yes, you will fail your courses if you don't have them. At most schools, textbooks often cost about $500 to $1,000 each semester, sometimes even more. At Belhaven, our faculty are extremely conscious of cost when they pick a textbook, and they're always looking for less expensive books or used books that can be rented, and when possible, they assign free resources. In addition, at Belhaven, we provide free textbooks for your required courses in literature, history, and math. Yale does that for their high-need students, but we do it for everybody. No other school is doing that. Myth number 3 is, I can live off campus and save money. Some students believe they'll save money by living off campus, and many of the big flagship universities don't even have enough housing for students, so they're forced to find housing off campus on their own. Count those costs carefully. On our campus, our students have a wide selection of quality housing options, but they both save time and money by not having to get in a car every time they want to go to school, or if they work on campus, their job's right here. Our residential students have lightning speed internet, 24/7 security, cable TV, and all the other amenities that those who live off campus have to pay for individually. Our students also only pay room and board during the time they're actually here, where if you rent an apartment, it's usually a 12-month lease. And we provide a scholarship for living on campus. All that adds up to real savings. Well, myth number 4 is fees won't change the price too much. Tuition is not the price. Count the fees when you're looking at the total cost, especially at state institutions. Public universities are likely to charge extra for parking, activities you never attend, and tickets to games and concerts you'll never go to. In addition, all schools charge special fees for some especially costly specialty classes and that you may want to take, and some of those are extremely high, so you need to understand those fees based on your academic major. State schools continually raise the prices for the fees in order to keep the tuition low and make the legislature and the taxpayers happy that they're keeping tuition low. The school doesn't care whether they get the money in tuition or fees or room and board. It's all the same to them. So the bottom line for them is this: money is money, no matter where it's charged, so the fees become high even when the tuition stays low. And public universities often bulk up their fees in order to keep the more visible prices lower, so be careful. To understand the full cost of college, sit down with a financial aid team to get the full picture, and they'll walk you through all the costs of a Belhaven education, and they'll do the same at any other school you're considering. These hidden costs can add up quickly, so you want to be careful. Now, myth number 5 is this: I shouldn't go into debt to go to college. There's lots of bad information in the media about college debt. The huge students' debt you read about are caused by 2 factors. First, The for-profit schools attract students by encouraging them to borrow more than they need. And sadly, the graduation rate for some of these institutions is less than 10%, although their students borrow most of the money in higher education. The other problem is there's no cap on borrowing for graduate education. So a student will borrow $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000. It's often too common as they're seeking a high-end professional degree. But if you come to Belhaven as a freshman and stay and graduate, you'll be getting a free master's degree and you won't have to borrow a dime for your master's degree. That's a huge saving. Now, it's critical to distinguish between good debt and bad debt. Borrow to invest in those things that appreciate in value, a house or a business venture. Don't borrow for those things that depreciate in value once you own them, cars and furniture and computers. Our undergraduates average only $15,000 or so in debt when they graduate from Belhaven. But research shows us that they'll make $2 to $3 million more over their lifetime if they didn't have that degree. Now that kind of borrowing makes sense, and borrowing to invest in yourself is the best borrowing you could ever do. I've written in detail about issues to consider when you're thinking about college debt and other myths of college costs, and I hope you'll read my paper, The Real Cost of College. You can find it on our website. It'll tell you lots more about these important topics.